감사합니다. Hello, I am Roger Mello, illustrator, writer, and playwright from Brazil. The thing I like to do above all is to read. Second is to express my own fiction in narrative words and images. I like both books and animals, but that's another story. Nowadays, we hear so much that books are full of images. Children's books and books for young adults, they are full of pictures, illustrations, and this is something good because it's a way to approach readers, children, to literacy, to literature, as if a good poem or a good story was something so boring that you needed a trick to attract the reader. On the other hand, we hear that nowadays books for children are so full of images and pictures that this is something harmful, that it takes off the possibility of children to wonder, to make their own stories, to think of their own images. Both the two statements are wrong. On their very conception, the people who say such things doesn't know the history of the book. Books have always been illustrated. Books have always been both an expression of narrative words and narrative images. But wait a moment. Words are not images too? What do you think? Words are images. Words make you navigate through a story. Words make you imagine, but images bring you to imagination. So this is why I always repeat. For me, images and words are the same thing. What does word mean? What does image mean? Everybody knows one difference, but is that difference important? We all used to draw when we were children. Do you remember the last drawing you did? Was it a long time ago? How many of you like to draw? You can raise your hands, please. How many of you still draw? Wow, very few. When we were children, we all liked so much to draw. Do you remember? Young children are requested to express themselves when they are very young through images. Please draw your dog, draw your father and mother, draw your history, your story. And when they begin to express themselves through words, they stop drawing. They are even discouraged to continue drawing. Please don't do this now. This is school time. Do it in your free time. I'm not talking about every teacher or school. I know many educators in Brazil, in Korea, all over the world, that recognize and trust in the importance of narrative images. Maybe children could keep drawing a picture diary, till they go to the 3rd grade in elementary school. I think this is not enough. I really do. I think we can really use the mouse, even the mouse, the brush, the pen, to draw as a way of thinking. We must keep drawing. To draw is to think through the line. When we are grown-ups, we stop drawing. Why? Letters were once pictures, and they began to get abstracted till they got to symbols. But they are still images. Letters are images. They will always remain as pictures. Imagination comes from the word image, from the relationship with the eye and the surroundings. Everybody knows Leonardo da Vinci. Everybody knows Leonardo da Vinci as an architect, what more? A thinker, a biologist, a scientist, inventor, engineer. But you know what? The thing that Leonardo was, above all, was an illustrator. He was a drawer. Everybody knows the image of the Vitruvian Man. You know? That man, a picture that Leonardo did around 1490, and it's just as worldly well known as the Mona Lisa itself. But this illustration with the man inscribed in a ball, in a circle, that is inscribed in a square, made the study of relationship between human body and the surrounding very important. Da Vinci didn't invent this idea of a man as a measure of all things. That thought would change the thinking of the world and would influence so much humanism. Very close to Da Vinci's Florence, there was a city, Siena, and in the city lived another inventor, another interesting man called Mariano di Taccola. Mariano also drew his own version of Vitruvian Man. A little bit kind of odd, but also still even more artistic. Mariano died when Da Vinci was born. Leonardo da Vinci was known to have viewed some of Taccola's illustrations and to sketch his own series of machines that he did a lot. Mariano was a great inventor. You know what? He invented many bridges, buildings. He even invented a breathing underwater device. Can you imagine this? Neither Mariano di Taccola or Da Vinci created the idea of a man as a measure of all things. The name Vitruvian Man comes from another guy, Vitruvius de Pollio. Vitruvius de Pollio was a man, an architect, an engineer, a thinker, who lived during the Roman Empire, 80, 70 before Christ. And that idea came from even before, from Protagoras. What I'm trying to call your attention to is that this revolutionary thinking was getting stronger and deeper through these illustrations, through the drawings. Each time this thought was drawn again and again, it went to somewhere else without words. Again, to draw is to think with the line, even without words. Images were always there. They are the first expression of art and thought, just like something that I love, Korean beautiful porcelain imagery. Just like ceramic arts were the first artificial object created by humankind. Images made human civilization even more challenging. Again, the word imagination comes from image. The pragmatic word praises idea. Everything in this world happens because of idea. The nowadays world doesn't give the same importance to the word fantasy. Fantasy is something for mad people, maybe. But it's not possible to get to an idea without imagination, without fantasy. Let's talk about being left alone. At night, in the darkness, the frightness and the adventure of night, I kind of hear a lullaby. Many ancient lullabies are very daunting, intimidating. They usually talk about a monster, they talk about menaces, they talk about being left alone in an island while your mother goes out to catch a shell for a living. Do you remember that jajanga? Did I pronounce the word very badly? No. Jajanga? My Korean is improving, I think. I'm trying to, forgive me. We cannot be judgmental about lullabies. When the children go to sleep, their parents give them, him or her, the most valuable, the most important gift, courage. The child becomes a hero that will confront the journey of night all alone. The song says, yes, there is a monster, there is loneliness, believe me, I cannot be with you every time, but you will overcome it. I trust you. You usually don't think at the lyrics of Jajanga, but this message will follow you through your entire life, through the threats of life. When I illustrated and made up the story of John by a Head's Breadth, I started making the plot. I did it with pencil, the quilt of images that cover a boy before he goes to sleep. While his father goes fishing, the father will face the storm. The boy will face the night and himself. The plot of the boy's blanket showed the story to me. At first, the image came, then I have to research the patterns of traditional quilts. Then the story came. I had already written and drawn many sketches of João, John by Head's Breadth. Then I traveled to Lake Titicaca, and I saw the most unreal floating islands for the first time. I knew from that very moment, while stepping the embroidery of the ground of Urus, that the tradition and culture of the children of Urus would help me. There, many islands made out of a plot of reeds called totora create a fairy tale-like possibility of living over the water. The Bolivians and Peruvians living in that floating islands maintain this tradition since the pre-Columbian era, when people developed this form of housing with a view of being protected through the danger of night, through the waters of Titicaca. From time to time, they weave a new island, and the older islands require constantly care, delicate work to ensure the buoyancy of the plot. The net drawn on the first pages of the book, João by a Head's Breadth, shows scattered objects and bits and pieces. I needed these pieces, these bits. They are traces of a story that I still didn't know, I had yet to find. So I dedicated this book to the children of the Isle of Urus in Lake Titicaca, not because only I feel emotionally attached to the place, but because I also need to have this connection to be able to face up the adventure of creating this book. Just as I got connected to the marvelous Nami Island at the very first time I came to this wonderful country, Korea, 5 years ago. Now I would like to share the dreams of children from South America, from Brazil, with the dreams of children from Korea, a country that I consider my second home and that made my dreams come true. We hear too many times that this is a world of the images. And this may not be seen as a bad thing. Images are a wonderful way to communicate, to think. Of course, I am not talking about every image, not talking about the big mass of images in outdoors, in advertisement, in the cities. I can say the same about words. There are so many wasteful stories, horrible texts, each and everywhere. How many unnecessary books, movies, how many stereotyped advertisements. Everything is narrative. And every narrative is a dialogue with the reader. Children's books are also important because fiction can allow people to think. I am talking about fiction of images. I am talking about fiction of words. In other words, it's to trust in every child as a free thinker. Believe me, I have been a grown-up for a long time, and I still keep drawing. 감사합니다.